Hey everyone, happy Monday. It's time for another Marketing Monday, and today we're going to have both Will and I on camera. Well, not all at the same time, but if this is your first time viewing our Marketing Mondays, I'm Helene, CEO and founder of Hashtagitude, and
I'm William. I'm a digital marketing strategist here.
And today we have an interesting topic for you, or this week I should say, about the EU versus Google. This is, I know, I just learned about this recently, but actually this is a long history. So today we'll talk about the who, why, and possibilities, and William and I will be switching off on the screen. So I will start off with talking about history. And actually, hold on just a moment. Let me just go ahead and share this to my timeline. Anyway, so the history of the lawsuit. Let's back up a little bit. So the EU is filing a $2.7 billion lawsuit against Google. Yes, that's right. Billion, not million, billion. So, when did this start? This started back in June 2006. According to Wired.co.uk, Siobhan and Adam Raff launched a vertical price comparison website called Foundum. Soon, the site disappears from Google, and later, they discover that the site has been marked down by Google's AdWords. Winter of 2009, the Raffs file a formal complaint to the European Commission. February 2010, Foundum files an updated complaint to the European Commission, which is now obliged to investigate. The case against Google has officially begun. So this was over 7 years ago. December 2010 through January 2011, German publishers complained their National Competition Authority about Google. The U.S. Federal Trade Commission opens a parallel investigation into Google. March 2007, Microsoft files a European competition complaint accusing Google of restricting competition to the detriment of European consumers. Then in May 2011, so 2011 was a very eventful year for this lawsuit, the former head of European Commission gives Google opportunity to settle and offer remedies to address the concerns. Time passes by. January through February 2012, the FTC ends its investigations into Google's search business, saying there's no evidence the firm's actions harmed consumers in the EU. Google makes an offer that it will add links to rival sites at the top of search results, and that the case could be settled by the end of the year. However, November 2014, Margrethe Vestager takes over as new chair of the European Commission, and she means business. So, more or less, she takes up this lawsuit again, and in April 2015, Vestager sends Google a formal statement of objections for abusing its dominance in the search engine market by systematically favoring its own comparison shopping product in its general search results pages. Vestager also steps up a probe into its Android operating system, Google's Android operating system, accusing the company of abusing its dominant position by means of the Android platform. July 2016, Vestager files a third antitrust charge, this time against Google's AdSense advertising business. And just last month, June 2017, TeleCrunch.com says the European Commission finds Google a record-breaking $2.73 billion for antitrust violations pertaining to Google's shopping search comparison service. Google's, or Alphabet's, full-year revenue for 2016 was almost $90 billion. The fine was calculated on the basis of the value of Google's revenue from its comparison shopping service in the 13 European Economic Area countries concerned. So now, here comes Will with talking about what does the EU say in this lawsuit.
Hey, Will, like she just said, let me step back. Pretty tall guy. Before coming to a conclusion, the new head of the European Commission wanted 3 questions answered before she could really begin to bring the case to Google. She wanted to determine whether Google's actions stalled the market development of mobile devices by demanding or encouraging smartphones to pre-install Google Search and Google Apps. They wanted to know whether Google suppressed attempts of smartphones and tablets that run from PC manufacturers willing to install Google apps over other apps. So they were, instead of making their own phones and installing their apps, they were trying to get other phone carriers and other things like a Microsoft phone would still like to use Google Chrome for all of its searches, and Google Chrome wants them to use that for the ad revenue. And 3, they wanted to answer whether Google unlawfully impeded the market development by way of lacking installation of certain Google apps with the use of other apps. It took a year for the European Commission to do all this investigations, and they pretty much concluded that Google violated 2, or if not all 3 of the questions that they were wondering. Google did require mobile manufacturers to pre-install Google Search and Google Chrome browsing, and required them to set Google Search as default search engine in their devices. They prevented manufacturers from selling smart mobile devices running on competing software based on Android's open source system. And they also give financial incentives to manufacturers and mobile network operators on conditions that they exclusively pre-install Google Search. They have found that Google has systematically given prominent placement to its own comparison shopping services. They've also found that Google has demoted the advertisements of competitors as well. So if you don't use AdWords and you use some other kind of advertising platform on Google, then that site will appear at least 1 in 4 times throughout the page, whereas Google AdWords, they're everywhere. And they also concluded that Google's own comparison shopping service is not subject to its own guidelines that they restrict other ad software from using. In a statement from the European Commissioner, a competitive mobile internet sector is increasingly important for consumers and businesses in Europe. But based on our investigation, we believe Google's behavior denies consumers a wider chance of mobile apps and service and stands in the way of innovations by other players and breaches the EU's antitrust laws. Now back to Helene with Google's response.
So, Google says, it's a problem. They haven't offered much in defense, but sticks to claims like, we believe that our innovations and product improvements have increased the choices for European consumers and promote competition. Google must defend itself from 3 separate charges. As Will said, excessive prominence to its own comparison shopping services at the top of its search results. 2, how Google runs the Android ecosystem. Google has recently applied for an extension on handling in this defense. And 3, Google has used various illegal tactics to stop ads from rival advertising platforms to appear in search. The EU Commission is still gathering mounting evidence against Google, but soon Google will have to prove that they favor competition and not their own products through hard statistics and facts. In a statement last year to TeleCrunch concerning AdSense and online shopping, Google said, "We remain confident that these claims lack evidence and are wrong on the facts, the law, and the economics. The surest signs of dynamic competition in any market are low prices, abundant choices, and constant innovation." And that's a great description of shopping on the internet today. There is simply no meaningful correlation between the evolution of our search services and the performance of price comparison sites. Meanwhile, over those same 10 years, a rapidly increasing amount of traffic flowed from our search pages to popular sites like Amazon and eBay as expanded into Europe. Hardly a sign of our favoring our own ads. So now, what do you think will happen? And who do you think is right? So, Will, what do you think?
I think that, well, at first I believe all in Google because I love Google, so I usually will take a bias to them before I do my own research. But after reading what the European Commission said, TeleCrunch, Fortune, tons of other social media magazines and business magazines in general, they are all finding that Google is using these manipulative practices, even though they are using such an open system. I believe Android systems one of the only systems that opens its coding up for anyone so they can make apps and do their own thing, unlike Apple. But they participate in other practices that truly decrease competition. And if that does turn out to be true, they should pay every dollar of the fine, because I don't like that in my free market.
Yeah, I mean, I would definitely agree with you, Will, that I probably would go with Google without doing my research. But after reading through everything that we've researched through this week, and just even going through the notes right now on this Facebook Live, I'm like, yeah, I mean, I would say that, with us doing the segment a few weeks ago or last month about Facebook and WeChat, I would say that's the same kind of stuff is happening in other aspects. Google is just a lot larger in many ways. They have a lot more products. So I don't know, like in a free market, having competition is definitely good. And if Google, Facebook, all these bigger businesses or these more aggressive, I guess, companies are doing that to like smash the little guys, it's not exactly fair. I mean,
It's not.
we're the little guys too, so so right now I would say that I would side with the EU for now, just because of the fact that it would be good to have choices, even though a lot of times people talk about like, I'd rather Google stuff. They're not saying I'd rather Bing something or Yahoo something. Google's become part of our whole like rhetoric in terms of how we talk day to day. So
Yeah.
cool. So in this week's blog post, what will we be talking about, Will?
It will be a whole lot of infographics. This is a very intensive subject, way more intricate than I believed. There'll be a lot more detailing of it, but then also how that can affect digital marketing, and what can this kind of find and this kind of forced strategic change that Google will have to make, how will that affect advertising on a global scale?
Sounds good. So, in terms of this week's upcoming events, tomorrow we do have our walk and talk at lunchtime, or I should say the lunchtime social media stroll. It's from 11:30 to 12:30, and the topic this month is about social media engagement or communication. It's more than just those likes, hearts, and shares. I mean, those definitely make us all happy when we see someone like something or heart something, but in terms of growing your community online, there's more to engagement than that. So hope to see you guys tomorrow at the walk and talk, and we'll be back again next week for Facebook Live Marketing Monday. See ya.